In the year 1982, a mysterious ship entered Earth's atmosphere from an unknown dimension. Its content and motive remained a mystery as it slowly hovered over Johannesburg City in South Africa. It finally came to a stop when it lost a key operation module, rendering it inoperable. After 3 months of zero movement from the ship, humans decided to break in and check it out. Lo and behold, a million extraterrestrial beings called prawns were discovered completely malnourished. A camp was immediately set up beneath the ship to accommodate them. The zone named District 9 was aimed at keeping them away from the general population. However, the place quickly grew into a slum as the population grew. This was a perfect breeding place for crime, and a set of Nigerian gangs infiltrated the zone. With a surprising discovery about prawns' strange love for cat food, they capitalized on it. They traded cat food for weaponry, which proved useless, as the weapons were bioengineered for use by prawns. The movie opens 20 years into the prawns' arrival, where tension has grown to the limit. People publicly protest the rogue prawns that steal and kill them to afford cat food. Following this, the government has developed an initiative to move the prawns. A private weapon manufacturing company, MNU, is tasked with relocating the prawns 240 kilometers off Johannesburg. Unbeknownst to the public, the mission's key agenda is to get a hold of the powerful alien weaponry. A man named Vickus is tasked with serving eviction notices to the prawns. He is under firm instructions to make it peaceful as many parties zoom in on the event. Things, however, fall apart as some prawns get violent, forcing the authorities to use lethal force. The team moves door to door, serving eviction notices and retrieving weapons. Nigeria's leader Obasanjo watches keenly from a distance as the events unfold. Not far away, a prawn named Chris and his son CJ scavenge the junk in search of an unknown fluid. With them is Chris's friend named Paul, who has been on his side for the last 20 years of the search. Finally, the trio has accumulated enough fluid and Chris stores it safely at Paul's. Chris comments that their plan is now ready to roll into action, but is shortly interrupted when Vickus comes knocking. Paul is urged to remain calm to avoid raising any alarm as they hide the fluid in his house. However, he is unable to remain composed and is immediately restrained and his house searched. Chris secretly watches in dismay as their 2-decade work fizzles out. Vickus confiscates the hidden fluid but accidentally sprays some on his face. He coughs for a while and dismisses the idea of getting medical help. Shortly afterward, Paul launches an attack on the team but is quickly neutralized. Vickus suffers an arm injury, which is taken care of by a colleague. In the next scene, the team arrives at Chris's house, which captures Vickus' attention. The house is filled with computers, which raises questions. However, he barely acts on it as a black liquid leaks from his nose, forcing him to cut short his search. The situation keeps worsening as some of his fingernails start falling off. Later in the evening, he heads home to find a surprise party awaiting him. Family and friends gather up to celebrate his new promotion as the mission's leader. The party takes a dark turn when Vickus throws up a dark liquid all over the cake. He is immediately rushed to the hospital, and his wife Tanya keeps a close eye on him. The doctor's assessment brings forth a shocking revelation. Vickus' injured limb has mysteriously turned into a tentacle, prompting him to raise an alarm. Vickus is immediately picked up by MNU agents and ferried to their secret lab 4 floors below MNU headquarters. There, he is shocked to notice experiments being undertaken on prawns. Shortly afterward, they are joined by the top dogs who arrive to witness the occurrence. They conduct quick experiments to see if he can handle the alien weaponry, and it's positive. Being the first person to have successfully fused with the prawn's genetics, his body's demand for research is high. Despite one of the directors, Smith, being his father-in-law, he votes to have Vickus' body dissected for research. The medical team is left to do the job and reality checks in for him. He immediately ambushes the medics and successfully fights his way out. He immediately sets out to find food to keep up with his rising metabolism. It's here he gets a hold of a disturbing broadcast. Rumors spread about him sleeping around with the prawns, hence his contamination. People are advised to stay away from him and report him to the authorities as a manhunt is put on him. He immediately flees to seek refuge in District 9 after stealing a phone. He calls his wife Tanya, but it's too late as Smith has infiltrated the rumors in her. The following morning, he wakes up to an unbearable hunger and a strange craving for cat food. Realizing that his situation is getting worse, he decides to amputate the infected limb. However, he experiences excruciating pain after chopping off a finger and terminates the plan. Just then, soldiers who have managed to triangulate his call with Tanya set out to find him. Vicus notices the approaching choppers and immediately goes into hiding. He sneaks into one of the shacks, which coincidentally turns out to be Chris's. He begs for a hideout before passing out from exhaustion. Chris, who remembers him from the previous day, connects the dots and hides him. Vicus is surprised when he gets up in Chris's basement full of tech. It's revealed that Chris built his shack above the Fallen module. For 20 years, he has been accumulating the fuel to get the module back to the mothership. The plan was, however, sabotaged by Vicus after confiscating the fluid. Chris feels bad for him, saying he could have him fixed in the mothership if he made it. However, the fluid is the fuel that could launch the ship back to the mothership. With their fates compelling them to act fast, the two team up to make a dangerous call. Chris is adamant to save his race and get back home alongside his kid. On the other hand, Vicus is rejuvenated when Tanya calls after seeing through her dad's lies. She wants him back, and he vows to come back well and good. He immediately sets out for the Nigerian camp to purchase weaponry for the mission. The plan fails terribly, as Obasanjo is curious to know how he came about. He wants to feed on his arm and gain his powers, and immediately orders him to be amputated. Vicus is lucky to reach out for a prawn gun and fires it at them. He holds them at gunpoint and takes enough weaponry for him and Chris, who then set out for the MNU headquarters. Meanwhile, Smith, who has tapped into his daughter's phone, sends out his men after determining his location. The team find the house empty shortly before a large explosion is heard at MNU. The two-man army storm the labs, but their plan is jeopardized when Chris notices the prawn experiment. He freezes as he watches in horror the animosity orchestrated on his people. Vicus manages to get him back on track, and they successfully make away with the fluid. However, soldiers are on their necks and trail them as they hastily make it to their ship. They make it home, but Vicus is agitated when Chris announces a change to his plan. His new plan is to head to their home planet and seek a rescue mission to save his comrades. This is set to take 3 years, time that Vicus doesn't have, as he is transforming into a prawn at an alarming rate. He is angry and hits Chris before getting down to commandeer the ship. CJ is worried and constantly asks him to get his dad, but Vicus goes on to leave without him. Soldiers who have now closed in on them capture Chris before fleeing as Vicus sets for the sky. His plan is derailed shortly afterward as he is shot down by the soldiers and comes crashing. He is immediately captured, but the small CJ goes unnoticed. Tables turn when Obasanjo's crew joins the row to fetch Vicus for their master. They easily capture him and prepare to dismember him as ordered. Meanwhile, a crafty CJ takes control of the ship following his dad's steps and activates the mothership. This in turn activates all weaponry, including a robot suit in Obasanjo's shack. The suit analyzes the situation and notices possible threats to Vicus as it recognizes him as its kind. The suit effortlessly eliminates Obasanjo and his crew in seconds. It then opens up for Vicus to board and take control. Meanwhile, Chris is apprehended by the soldiers to explain the occurrences, but fails to talk. He is almost eliminated when Vicus comes to his rescue and covers him. This time, he doesn't contest Chris's plan and offers to cover him till he makes it to the ship. He believes that Chris is the key to their success in this case. Though Chris is hesitant to leave him behind, Vicus pressures him to leave as he holds the fort for him. Chris makes his way to the ship, narrowly escaping the flying bullets. He manages to remotely suck the ship to the mothership above it. On the other hand, Vicus is slowly overwhelmed by the soldiers as they shower him with bullets. However, other prawns join hands to help their kind, and all together they win the war. From District 9, they all watch in awe as the ship comes to life after 2 decades. The ship sets off for home with Chris carrying his comrades' lives on his back. Later on, MNU undertakes the relocation plan and prawns are moved off Johannesburg, much to the relief of the residents. The new camp, known as District 10, houses over 2 million prawns as their population keeps growing. In the closing scene, Tanya admires a metal flower that she earlier found on her front door. She is convinced that Vickers put it there, though her friends dispute the idea. True to her thoughts, the closing scene pictures a now fully transformed Vickers making a metal flower. His legacy remains disputed with mixed reactions to his story. With time passing by, they can only hope Chris made it, and a rescue mission is in place.